Hey, Scott from Digital Fish here. I'm going to be doing a video about the basics of playing or fighting fish, some tips, what to do, maybe not what to do, but also going to be talking a bit about some advanced fighting techniques, what to do when you've got particularly big fish on and you've got to put it on the line, because there are some things around timing and how fish swim as to how you can beat those fish and stop them getting to the rocks. Today's been pretty good so far. I've been practicing playing fighting fish and got a bin full of these fellas, so it's been a great day. Yeah. So here are the basic principles of how to play or fight a fish. If you're already a bit of a master at this, you can skip forward to where I'm in the garage talking to the camera, and that's where I'm giving more expert advice. If you have a fish that is proportionally not very strong compared to the gear you are using, you can usually just steadily wind the fish towards you. But if you've hooked a fish that is relatively strong compared to the gear you're using, you need to play the fish. There's a number of reasons for this. You don't want to snap the line, and you don't want to pull the hook out of its mouth. And this is especially true if you know you've hooked a soft mouth species like a trevally. So it's important to remember, when you're playing a fish, keep constant pressure on the fish by using the rod. It doesn't have to be a lot of pressure, but you don't want the line to go slack, as this gives the fish a chance to shake its head and throw the hook. The longer the fight goes on, the bigger the hole the hook may create in the fish's mouth, so it's easier for the fish to shake its head and throw the hook. A really good skill is to be able to use the rod and reel in synchronization. What I mean by that is that you lower the rod and wind the reel in synchronization, keeping the right amount of tension on the line as you do this. If you drop the rod quickly, you must wind quickly to keep the tension on the line. If you drop the rod slowly, wind slowly to keep the same amount of tension on the fish. Be responsive to the fish's struggles. Sometimes I stop winding and lift the rod or lower the rod in response to the fish's head shakes or runs. A bigger fish will turn and run, so gently lower the rod with the run, so when the fish is finished running, start to ease the fish back towards you and start the pump and wind cycle again. The rod is like a shock absorber, and you need to use it like one when the fish struggles or runs, or maybe even swims towards you. That's when you need to wind as fast as you can until the tension comes back on. So if you feel like you've lost the fish, you know what, and maybe swim quickly towards you. So if it seems to go slack, wind really quickly. When you get the fish to the edge of the boat, and it's a big one, don't panic if it suddenly lunges and runs away. Stay calm. Keep focused on playing the fish and tiring it out. Don't try and stop the fish by putting your hand on the reel or tightening the drag to stop it getting away. This is where a lot of fish are lost because fishermen panic and do something stupid. Just keep playing the fish. Another tip, don't wind the fish so close to the rod that it's like 50 centimeters away. Keep the rod high and leave about 1 to 1.5 meters of line out. Many beginners wind until the fish is almost touching the rod tip. This is a bad idea. If the fish shakes its head, if it's a big fish, it may just snap the line easily, or worse still, snap the rod tip. Keep the rod bent over. If the fish lunges, lower the rod tip down, then start to raise it again when the fish tires out. So here's a clip where I'm coaching my friend Clinton on playing fish. Clinton hasn't done a lot of fishing, so I'm giving him a bit of advice on this fish, which turned out to be a lovely 4-kilo snapper. Wind. Yep, just keep it smooth, that's right. Yep. And when you lift the rod, stop winding. Yeah. So lift. Yep. Wind. Oh, no. As soon as you hear the reels pulled, yep. Oh, don't let the line go slack. Don't let the line go slack.
So this is what you want to avoid. Don't create any slack line by dropping the rod too low or too fast. Keep the pressure on the fish at all times by either lifting the rod or winding the line quickly.
Keep using the rod to keep tension on the line. Yeah. Right. He's coming up just nice and easy, nice and easy. Which way is he going to come? Left or right? Left or right, he could be either way. It's okay, just nice and easy, nice and easy. Just, okay, stop there, left or right. This way, this way, this way. Easy, easy, easy. Oh, you got him. Yeah. Oh, nice. What a great looking fish, bro. The whole pilly. Yeah.
Nice.
So here I go into a few advanced tips about how to fight and play fish.
Okay, another tip here when fighting fish, pay attention to the rod angle. Very seldom do I keep the rod at the same angle throughout the whole fight. Sometimes I'll actually drop the tip. What this does is it helps the line flow off the reel more smoothly, particularly if I've got a very high drag setting and I just want the reel to release line quickly because the fish has suddenly dashed off. I don't want that shock building up, and find that just dropping the rod tip a little bit can help line be pulled off the reel a bit more smoothly. Also make sure during the fight that the line doesn't touch anything else except for the guides and the reel. Make sure it doesn't touch the boat, make sure it doesn't touch anything else, because even at very high pressure, if the line just touches something, it suddenly gets very weak and it's more likely to snap. Another important tip here, when you're fighting a fish and it's running for the reef, maybe it's a big snapper or a big kingfish, and you know you've got to do something, otherwise you're going to lose the fish, you've got to pick your moment to apply as much pressure as you can to turn its head. This is particularly true for snapper and kingfish. Not every pelagic fish, but especially snapper, I find that the fish will burst. And in between each burst, there's a pause. And that's when you need to try and apply pressure quickly and smoothly to turn its head. When a fish swims, it usually starts with a head shake, and then the movement travels down its body, and it finally kicks with its tail. It'll travel for a certain distance, and then it'll do that again. And it's at that moment when it pauses, that's when you have to try and apply gentle but solid pressure to turn its head. If you can figure out when that is, you've got actually a decent chance of turning its head and quickly bringing it back up. When you do that, when you've turned its head, quickly start pumping and winding to be able to bring it back up into the safety zone. My last tip here, when you're fighting fish, if you're shore fishing and you hooked a big heavy fish like a stingray or a shark, I find the best thing to do, if I've got room behind me, I'll actually just start walking backwards. Steady, slow pressure is actually usually better than a pump and a wind. When there's a brief pause and the fish will start to swim away again, if it feels like the pressure starts to decrease. And so I find if I'm shore fishing and I hook a big fish like a shark or a ray, you can use this technique as well for snapper, of course, and kingfish, but just steadily walking back and walking back and walking back, you can actually gain better line.
Pace up and down a bit. Yep.